Should you really monetize your hobbies? Now, I've talked about hobbies before, and the fact that everyone needs them, and they're kind of like the spice that keeps on giving in your life. However, the question is, should you monetize them? Should you try to turn your hobbies into a side hustle? Now, there's a lot that goes into that decision, but in today's episode, we're going to talk about just kind of the pros and cons of if that is the right choice for you, what some benefits could be, what some drawbacks could be, but then in the end, what you can do if you decide to go down this route. So, keeping everything simple, let's dive right in. Welcome back to the Keeping Everything Simple podcast. I'm your host and fellow student Michael Klukas, and in this show, we boil down complicated topics into simple and actionable tips. So we're going to start right off with the pros of monetizing your hobbies. And the first one that comes to mind is the fact that you can actually work on something that you enjoy doing, which in of itself is a fantastic benefit. And I say it that way because so many of us have just the normal day job, the normal 9 to 5, which we aren't ecstatic about. We aren't loving every minute of it. However, we're okay with it. We like it, and it's good. It can be good enough. But then the question becomes, with hobbies as your main work or as a side hustle, you're doing something that you actively really enjoy doing. You get fulfillment out of it, you get pleasure out of it, and now you're getting to make a little bit of money from it, and it feels like it's a win for everybody. So that's why it's the very first pro, because usually right out the gate, that's what you would think of. Like the fact that if, say, you love playing video games and you choose to do live streaming on the side or video game reviews on the side as a hobby, and you start making money from that, it's pretty exciting because you're able to then say, hey, I'm doing this thing that I enjoy doing. It's fun. And now I'm making a little bit of money from it. Fantastic. The fact that you could love photography and then set up a little side hustle where you do graduation shoots or you just take portraits for friends and family and you just get a little bit of money coming in from it. It's, again, exciting and it's fulfilling because this is something that you get to practice at. It's a skill you're growing, and at the same time, you like the work. So that's the first pro. And there's also the fact that if it's profitable enough to work for yourself, you can enjoy even more flexibility. So taking my video game example, if you got into live streaming, you're starting to grow, you're starting to gain a little bit of revenue from it, or say you're a content creator online and you're starting to get a couple sales from your first couple of digital products, then when you gain that flexibility and you have enough money to replace some of your main income or all of your main income, then at that point in time, you have a decision where you can opt to lessen the amount of time you work at a normal traditional 9 to 5 job, or you can choose to go all in and create your own schedule and create your own timeline for what creative flexibility and financial stability looks like for you. And I put that as a pro because the ultimate thing is like flexibility, where anymore as we hear discussions and discourse around like the idea of hybrid work or the idea of remote work in general, which is a very touchy subject for some companies, the idea that you're able to actively work on something you enjoy, so that's pro one, but then have the flexibility to dedicate more time to it and more energy to it, that's pro two, because there's again that flexibility aspect to it. You get to build kind of your life around what that hobby used to be and what that side hustle now is becoming your main hustle, and how it's just kind of balancing out the other aspects of your life. So that's usually where I think flexibility is most impactful. Is it kind of fuels that sense of control that we all need to some aspect in our lives. And real quick, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you are finding any value on this, if you watch this on YouTube, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Ring that notification bell so you know every time that we upload a new episode. It really does help us out so much, and I greatly appreciate it. If you're listening to us on Spotify or a podcast app, then make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and give us a follow. That way you know, again, every time I upload a new episode. And it just stokes my ego just a little bit more. But with that, let's jump right back into the podcast. The third, more obvious one is the fact that if you have turned a hobby into a side hustle and from there into potentially a main hustle, which just means it's replacing your 9 to 5 work, then you get to work for yourself, and that's exciting. I also do want to emphasize, though, not everyone's going to make the greatest boss for themselves. Some people will procrastinate and not set accurate deadlines. They won't create the right systems to get them in place to actively do the work they need to do. And it can be a mess. I admit that. However, one of the pros is the fact that no more days have to be spent trying to get an email response from somebody else. No more time has to be wasted on usually random meetings with someone else waiting to give you approval. And of course, this all depends on what you choose to do for said side hustle and hobbies. But having that extra, layer of accountability, the extra layer of ownership on top of it, you answer to yourself. Your results are driven by yourself. So that means ultimately it's not the algorithm that's going to dictate how well you do. It's not, some aspect of being shadow banned, because a lot of people complain about that. Instead, it is really just the fact that you can work for yourself. So that means you're accountable to yourself. So you're the one that has to own up to all the problems and all the successes. And that's just one of those, the biggest pros and biggest cons type of thing. But I'd say it's almost like the biggest benefits and biggest drawbacks. Just because you work for yourself, that means you answer to yourself. So anything and everything goes through you. And what exactly are the cons of turning a hobby into a side hustle? And yes, there are a few. So let's go over those real quick. Now, if you haven't heard of this book called The E-Myth Revisited, it is a fantastic book if you are looking to start your own side hustle, looking to start your own business, or even reinvigorate your business. I have the link for that book down in the description below. So it is an affiliate link. So if you do check it out, that does help me out a whole lot. But the book opens up with the pie example. So the author is talking about a client they're working with, a small business owner who is making pies, who originally just loved making pies, and as her business grew, as her bakery grew, then she got pulled away from the actual pie making itself. And as a result of that, what started out as the hobby that she loved, she began to lose the love for the hobby because of all the other aspect of running a business that came into the picture that she wasn't prepared for and wasn't expecting. And so that's where the first con comes in, is you can lose the love of the hobby by getting lost in the technicalities. And that can be unavoidable, because ultimately, when you are trying to run a business, you have to be able to wear all the different hats to some degree. So as I talked about pro one, or one of the other pros being the fact that you're able to answer to yourself, that also means you have to be able to do everything that you can, especially if you want this to be sustainable in the long term. If it's just a side hustle for fun, then yeah, there's a lot less riding on it. But if you're trying to turn this into a main hustle and into your main source of income, then you may lose the love for the hobby, or you may be drawn away from it because you have to focus on other aspects of the business. So that's one of the first cons, is you just have to be aware of the fact that you could lose the love of it, because when you are taking something that you enjoy doing just for fun and just on the side and turn that into your main day-to-day focus, it's essentially taking what could have been a nice stress reliever and turn that into your source of stress. So you just have to be careful about that and understand that that is an implication of going this route. This is the second con here, is leading back into what I had mentioned previously for the pro. You answer to yourself. So you need to own all your successes and all your mistakes. If you need to order product and you accidentally order 400 rather than 40, that's on you. If you accidentally misdeliver on some product or some project for somebody, that's on you. There's so many different things that can go wrong with turning a hobby into a side hustle and into your main source of income and into your main gig. And so that means you have to be prepared for all the drawbacks that come with that. When you are the owner and the star player and the star creator, then so much of it can be wrapped up in our sense of pride and our sense of ego of that, okay, I have to make this work and I will make this work. And if I don't make it work, then that means I'm worthless, and it means I can't do this, and it means that... And that's one of the trains of thoughts that can happen when you are trying to get something off the ground. So you just have to be aware of this, be prepared for this, because it is one of the drawbacks. And it's two sides of the same coin. Like I said, all your successes are fantastic. They're one of the biggest upsides of trying to do something and create something on your own. But the flip side is the fact that all the mistakes, all the stress, all the issues, all the contracts or whatever comes your way goes through you. So you just have to, again, mentally be prepared for that shift and that effort that comes with it. Real quick, if you are enjoying this episode, then you might also enjoy our weekly newsletter, the Keeping Everything Simple newsletter. Yes, there is a very obvious naming scheme going on here, but that's besides the point. If you want to get an inside look into how some of the lessons and stories I talk about play out in my life, then the weekly newsletter would be a great way to dive deeper into that, as well as getting resources and recommendations for books, articles, other YouTube videos that will give you greater insight into some of these complicated topics and how we're going to be able to boil them down more and more together. Subscribe down below in the link in description to the Keeping Everything Simple newsletter, and I will see you in your inbox. All right, let's get back to the podcast. The third and very obvious con here is there's irregularity in your income and there's less stability if you don't set yourself up for success in the right way. And what I mean by this is, so Nicholas Cole, who is one of the most read writers on the internet, has a philosophy where the fact you should build like a couple streams of income for yourself, as well as find ways to create reoccurring income in general. And one of the ways that they like to do that is from ghostwriting. They like to do it from having online book sales, from a paid newsletter. And those are just kind of like some of the easy ones come off the top of my head, because if you have, say, a book that you have written, whether it's an ebook or a full-on book in of itself, then you can get royalties from that. You can get continual payments from that as long as people are buying it. I like the idea of the paid newsletter where if you are able to provide such high quality value to your customers, to your readers, that they choose to subscribe and pay for that monthly subscription, then you have created stability and you've created a routine source of income that's going to come in every single month. However, if you are working on more gig-based work, say the photography example, and you go for a month or two with no clients, or say that if you like the idea of the video games live streamer or content creator and you don't have any small time brand deals, you don't have any sales of digital products, then you can lose your source of income for that month. Even if in the long term it kind of averages out, you have to be prepared for that. And whether that means you set aside the right amount in an emergency fund, whether that means you are properly preparing for the rainy day or that slow month where you have to cut back on other expenses, or you prepared enough savings wise that you can weather a month or two of low income. And you can also think about just being able to prepare in advance. You have to think in that manner, especially when your income is irregular, when you are working for yourself. So that is the third con, just because it's not so much an actual drawback or negative. It's just something that you have to be prepared for in of itself, because if you aren't prepared to weather those storms, it can feel very stressful. It can feel overwhelming of like, I'm not doing this right. Why is my income drying up? Did I do something wrong? When instead it's just, this is just a slow month. Maybe a good example is the fact that I sell gaming computers as a side hustle. And it's because I like building them. I'm not truly trying to turn that into a main hustle right now. But it's the fact that I know that in the summer, I'm going to sell less computers because people want to spend less time inside gaming than they want to go out and actually do things, see friends, and go out and experience life. But in the winter months, in the fall, as holidays roll around, then sales pick up because people are getting these big gifts for themselves. They're getting big gifts for each other. And those are the opportunities to really sell more. And that's just the seasonality and how the influx of sales work. So you just have to keep that in mind and be prepared for that. Simplified actions that I want you guys to kind of take away from this. So you've heard the pros, you've heard the cons. What are the actions that you can take today? So first and foremost, creating a sustainable side hustle from your hobbies means accepting the pros and cons and finding what you really love about the process and that you protect that part of it specifically. Take my pie example when I talked about from the con of the E-Myth, is you can lose the love for the hobby because you've turned, again, a source of stress relief, a source of recharging, a source of creativity and fun, and you turn that into your main source of stress. You turn that into your main source of, okay, I need to make this work. I have to churn out, one finished project after another, and I'm just so tired. I'm just so overwhelmed, and I just don't want to keep making these pies. I keep going back to the pie part because that was a pretty easy example. But you want to protect the things that you really love about that hobby in general. So if you are able to systematize the other aspects of building a business, then it helps you to be able to say, all right, cool. I have systems in place, but I have distinctly set aside time for, photo editing. I distinctly set aside time for prepping the ingredients for today's batch of cookies, for the day's batch of pies, or I have distinctly gone through and did a speedrunning challenge for my favorite video game, even though I've done a couple other pieces of content this week that have been outside of my normal wheelhouse and my normal comfort zone. It's just these different ways of finding what works and then expanding on them, but still protecting the main things you really enjoy doing. Another one is be willing to change with the seasons of the hustle. So don't jump ship right away. So if you've heard of, say, the FIRE community, so this is the financially independent retire early community, they have this thing called Barista FIRE, where your passive income, the stuff that you earn from investments or whatnot, makes you enough that with just a part-time job, like working at a coffee shop as a barista, then you've earned enough to cover all your expenses, have some fun, and spend money still, and never have to worry about running out. I use that as my example is when you're using seasons of hustle, then you have to understand that some seasons will be slow, some seasons will be fast. And when you are accepting that and working to find ways of supplementing your income when the months get slow, you're going to put yourself in a lot more of a financially stable position, as well as a lot less of a mentally overwhelming position too. When I'm going to use the example again of the gaming computers that I build and sell, when it's the slow months, I still have my 9-to-5 job to fall back on. So during the summers and spring, then I'm just chugging along. I'm working, I'm progressing within my career. And then as fall and winter pick up, then I'm able to sell a bit more. I'm able to get some extra income coming in, and that's exciting. For those who have a more side hustle dependent or self-employed dependent type of income, then it might be, hey, everyone needs holiday shoppers during, Christmas and Black Friday. Maybe you are one of the people that signs up for a couple month contract to be a retail employee, or you're finding some restaurant that just needs part-time workers and you're able to pick up a couple shifts here or there. Maybe you jump on and do kind of, remote customer service, whatever it is. It's instead finding ways to supplement the income, create stability, and ultimately not put all your eggs in one basket. Because as you're transitioning from one season to another, you have to be prepared to weather the storms of those transitions themselves, not just the overall, hey, I'm trying to embark on this journey myself and make something that supports my lifestyle. If you're looking for an entry into journaling or just want to get more mindful about your own productivity, then go ahead and check out our daily review journal. This is the first edition of that journal. Available now on Amazon. Combining my own kind of journaling prompts throughout the day, it is an easy way to get you into journaling, along with easy formatting to follow. So from daily gratitude to a daily review, along with goal setting using tomorrow's daily highlight, and ending with any notes and miscellaneous reminders that you might have for yourself. It is a fantastic way to, again, start the habit of journaling, as well as get more intentional about how you control your own view of life and your day-to-day. So this is just one step in that direction on how I can help you guys do that. But follow the link in the description down below to pick one up today. And with that, let's jump right back into the podcast. So being prepared for that is important, but then also having just a game plan in place for the seasons that come. That's the other simplified tip or simplified action you can take. And the last one is don't wait for perfection. So Noah Kagan, the author of Million Dollar Weekend, has a saying which is now, not how. If you wait for perfection and try to only take action when everything seems like it's going to go well, when all of your ducks are in a row, when everything is 100% perfect, nothing can possibly go wrong, yeah, something's going to go wrong. Just tell you right out the gate here. But if you wait for those moments where it feels like everything's perfect, then you have wasted too much time before you can even get, in front of a customer, before you can even make your first dollar. So you don't want to be held up by the perfectionist trap, where at some point you have to know that perfectionism is a source and a form of procrastination. Because if you want to turn a hobby into a side hustle, if that's the route you want to go, then you have to be prepared to just kind of jump right in, figure it out a little bit as you go. It's okay to do your research. It's okay to get a plan in place and kind of have it be bare bones. Here's what I need to do. Here's the problem that I'm solving. Here's the solution that I offer. But you can't try to think that you need to have a, Fortune 500 company level of a plan in place and a strategic spending strategy and a forecast for next 2 quarters. It's so much simple as, hey, starting today, I am running this business. It is solving this problem for this type of person, and I am reaching out to my friends, my family, so I know that this is what I'm offering right now, just right now, as a side hustle, as a trial basis. That's focusing on the now and not the how. Because as you take action, as you get that ball rolling, then it's easier to keep momentum going because you have already gotten over the largest hurdle, which is simply starting. So yeah, it can be exciting to take a hobby that you love and turn it into a source of income, but you have to just be careful about it because some people shouldn't do it. And yes, I encourage everybody to find hobbies that love, hobbies that, one, keep them healthy, one that keep them creative, one that keep them or make them a little bit of money here or there, one that connects you to other people, and then one that helps your spiritual life. And I highly encourage that. I want that for you because that, again, is the spice to your life, and it just keeps on giving. However, at the same time, I don't want people to feel like they have to monetize all their hobbies. For myself, that's a big problem I have, where I feel like, oh, I should be able to make money from this. Let me try to do it, rather than just thinking, oh, I like this hobby. Let me just use this as an outlet for one of the 5 pillars of a well-balanced life. So that's my encouragement to you guys. And the simplified actions is that you want to create sustainability and protect what you love within that hobby. You want to be willing to change with the seasons of hustle. So prepare in advance for what a slow and fast season might look like for you. And you don't want to wait for perfection. You want to figure out what you can do now and then take action and get over that first hurdle. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If this was on a podcast app of choice, make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and give us a follow so you know every time I upload a new episode. If you're listening to us on YouTube, make sure you leave us a comment about what is a hobby that you've thought about turning into a side hustle before. But also subscribe, bring up notification bells so you know every time I upload a new episode. I do appreciate it so much, and it helps share the show with other people just like you. But with that, have an amazing day, you amazing people, and I will see you all in the next episode. Go out there and do great things.